Hi, I'm Chris Bellini,
I'm Brandon Kennedy.
and today we're going to talk to you about anger in sport context.
So, when we think of people's feelings, we usually think of a few emotions we experience every day, which are happiness, sadness, anger, fear, or even being surprised. Although anger is actually considered by a lot of people as a secondary emotion, because on a lot of occasions it can be triggered by other emotions such as fear, sadness, or even being surprised.
Anger in sport context is important because you see it in almost every sporting contest from the fans to the athletes playing. The competitive nature of sport thrives on emotions, and who doesn't love a good argument or scuffle on the court or arena to heighten the intensity of the game? For me, being a hockey player, keeping your emotions in check was always important, as my father has always taught me, don't let your emotions control you. Once you've lost your mind, what do you have left?
In sports, we see different types of anger on a regular basis by not only the players and coaches, but the fans as well. These are 7 different ways in which anger is measured. Assault is when someone is being physically violent to others, such as a fight. Indirect could be just someone being angry and it affecting someone else negatively. Irritability is when someone is bothered so much that they are pretty much ready to explode or at their breaking point. Negativism is pretty self explanatory. Resentment is not liking someone because of being jealous or feeling hate towards them. Suspicion is when you are angry because you think someone is up to or responsible for something you don't like. And lastly, verbal is just anything you express which is negative.
Anger is discharged from the limbic system in your brain. In sport, we have to think what causes anger to come out and show. Because anger is a secondary emotion, something else has to trigger your limbic system, meaning no one's angry for no reason. Some sport related events that could cause this emotion to show are during rivalry games or playoffs when the stakes are high and everyone is aware, and you can feel it in the arena. The fans feed off it, and the more intense the game, the louder the crowd and the thirst for competition. On the other end, fans can show serious or harmful anger, such as when LeBron left Cleveland, there was riots across Ohio.
This is the appraisal theory, and the first step is stimulus. This is basically when something makes you react and changes your energy to respond towards what happened. Secondly, you have the appraisal of the stimulus, which makes you assess what your reaction was about. Next is the motivational response, which causes you to gather and reason why you responded to whatever caused this. Then you have the physiological response, which is the physical way in which your body reacts and feels, which then leads to the last step in the theory, which is experience of emotion. And this is where the final result, say, of anger or of happiness is shown.
The ABC model of anger is a general look at how anger starts and develops. Like I mentioned before, there has to be something that triggers one's anger, the activating event. Then you get into your belief system or why the particular case pertains to you and upsets you. Next is the consequences of the actions made while angry. Such if you punch a table and broke it, you may have hurt your hand or you're going to have to fix the table. The worst case scenario is a dispute resulting in violence or worse. But that being said, we should remember what Ralph Waldo Emerson said: for every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. And for the first interview, I interviewed my high school hockey coach, Chris Diamond, who played AHL hockey for the Trenton Devils. And I asked him 3 questions. How can anger be defined in sport context? Can you share a moment where you felt anger? And did the anger affect your daily routine and for how long?
So for our second interview, I interviewed my high school basketball coach, Billy McKee. We asked him all of the same questions. How can anger be defined in a sport context? Can you share a moment where you have felt anger? And last, did the anger affect your daily routine and for how long? His answers were a little bit different from the first interview.
Now to look at anger in sport from the fans' perspective. We can define this from the fans' perspective because it's what makes sports possible. Athletes wouldn't want to play if there's no fans in the stands, and some are more invested than some of the players some years. Unmatched passion for one's teams are fans that feel every win and also feel every loss. I think we all know somebody like this. Throwing trash or making a scene is another thing anger and radical fans will do. This has no room in sport and is unacceptable because fans need to realize at the end of the day, it's a game and it's here for entertainment.
There are many different ways to measure anger in someone, whether it's a fan or a player on the court, or even your average everyday person. If you click on the link below, we found a little anger test to measure how currently angry you are. If you're a fan, something like getting up and out of your seat and taking a walk around the stadium after a bad play to calm down is a good way to relieve stress. If you're a player on the court, breathing and doing other relaxation exercises during the game or when you come out of the game on the bench is an easy way to calm down and release anger.
Anger clouds all emotion, and it's almost impossible to maintain focus and complete a task if there's something unrelated that's making you furious. It was interesting to hear during both interviews that we heard similar answers, and it's so crucial to keep your emotions in check and not lose your mind over a minor detail that's out of your control. Also, a lasting message from both was that if you can learn to control yourself and your own anger, that you can be very successful not only in sport but in life.
There are a few ways to control anger, and these are three of the ways that we felt were most important. The first one is self-talk exercises during the game, after the game, or even before the game. Secondly, concentrate on the things you can actually control. Don't worry about the other players or your coach or the refs. Just worry about you and how you can control your game. Lastly, do pregame routines so you can stay focused on yourself and not let others affect your game. Because if you let others affect your game, you will have no control, and that builds up anger.
In conclusion, there are many ways to control your anger: breathing exercise, self-talks, etc. But the most important thing for fans to remember is that it is a game. And when fans are out of control and throwing and yelling at players, it can make it a dangerous environment for athletes who are there to provide entertainment to the consumers.